Hello guys, we're back with another video, and this time we're going to take a look at the 2013-2014 season itself. I'm not going to go into as much details as I went last year because I definitely don't want to touch on the 1 hour of video length again, and I'm more focused on keeping it within a quarter of an hour. So we'll be focusing more not in the detail stuff, but just on some fun stuff that happened this season and also the end results. So to start, we're going to talk a bit about the first live auction draft, and this turned out to be the only that we had a pure live auction draft. Because it was not without its quirks. As you can see here in this post from the message board, first we chose the date Friday the 13th, which is quite a lucky date for something to do first. We had to do a ESPN share league, like everything in another league, teams, players, and everything, just to hold the auction. Maybe for some reason the Fantrax platform didn't offer auction draft. But remember ESPN? I almost forgot, but let me give you a sound bite to remind you. Yeah, right? Memories. So the ESPN. Let me hear it again. I enjoy that. We had to do this calculations here for the salary and so on, but still I think it went quite well, although many people said it was a bit crazy, and it kind of was, but still the results were not that out of the realm of normal. And another interesting thing from the message board again, that there was always going to be an issue with getting everyone, 20 people from 4 continents, to do a live auction draft at the same time. And you can see that here that Kyle was a bit late, and the auto drafter went berserk, like it says here, and gave Crawford 10.45 million salary, which was about $1.5 million more than the second highest at the time. So it was not without its specialties, but overall, here are the top 10 contracts signed at this first auction by salary. You can see the draft class was pretty bare because I don't know, because it was the first year and most good players were still signed to their contracts from the previous year's draft. So you see, maybe after the top 3, the quality drops significantly, especially you see guys like Milan Michalek and Parento drafted and signed to hefty contracts. But Brad did quite well by signing Jamie Benn, who was actually the only really top quality free agent then. And this contract turned out to be one of the good value contracts in the coming years. So if you put this auction in comparison, here are the players signed at the auctions throughout the seasons, including the last part, the dotted line, my forecast for this year's auction. So there is some cycle involved in the volume and quality of free agents available and free roster spots. And this year it seems we have gone the full cycle maybe, and we will be having the shallowest, the most shallow auction class since the first year. But we'll see. This is just a forecast. Anyway, this is just a recap of the auction. Next, I've used this post of Brad because it was quite funny, and he made some crazy predictions, although some of them, like the second one, actually turned out to be true, but most of them didn't have a very high likelihood of happening. Although, like the sixth one, I kind of regret it didn't happen, but there is always a chance. We'll see that. But what I would like to focus on is the only of his predictions which actually concerned our own league, and this was the last one. So it's a single prediction, but it actually could be broken down into a couple ones. So let's see how Brad did here. First, Cam doesn't win every year. He won the first year, but he hasn't won the league since, so that's checked. Linköping doesn't win in 2014. That's also true because it took him another 3 years to win it in 2017. Jay has an enormous bounce back. Yes, and even it says that he finishes between 10 and 12. He actually overachieved on that. So let's give it a double check. And the Norris ends up being the toughest division. Also true, because this was the first year when the Norris was the strongest division, and they kept it like this for the next 3 or 4 years. So this also gets a check. So in the last thing, James manages to win the division. So naturally, when James sees this, he goes like this, and it's pretty happy with this prediction, especially if he knew how correct the other ones were. What he didn't know back then was that there was a dark force looming on the horizon, and many have wondered what might have awakened this dark force. And I have the answer here in a post by Clint himself from preseason and after the auction about Grebeshkov, that he wanted to sign him, but someone bit all the rest of his salary remaining just to quit. So you had this thing to quit the auction, but yeah, special stuff. So, but it seemed to have triggered the mighty camels out to prove the doubters wrong, and boy, did they do. So onto the season itself. Like I said, we are skipping to the results. We are not going to discuss teams and divisions, etc. So you see here, first and most noticeable, the Jackalopes and the Ghosts. So they were the bottom 2 teams in the previous season, and now they are at the top of the Adams and near the top of the Norris, respectively. So this is quite amazing, and I think it hasn't been equaled so far, or it would be hard to have the bottom 2 teams go to the top 4 in the next season. Only Linköping managed to retain their division title, and the rest of the divisions had a new champions. The Patrick was bad. The Norris was strong. And the curious thing was that if you notice from 7 to 12, it is Smythe Adams, which naturally made for some Smythe Adams matchups in the first round of the playoffs, which actually didn't end very well for the Smythe, but the Mighty Camels were there to, so to say, to carry the Smythe flag. And also another thing, the last column, the Roto rank, I've put here just to keep, so to say, a comparison of the randomness of the standings. If we consider that the Roto is a bit more fair overall and head-to-head is a bit more random, or depending on opponents and luck and everything. But if you see that the standings were pretty close in both systems, and this was also confirmed by an interesting thing that Sheldon did back then, the owner of the Detroit now Hearst franchise. what he did is simulate for the full season as if each team played every other team every given week. So it's not like you had one matchup, it's like you had 19 matchups every week. So at the end, the results were again pretty close, like in his simulation and the league rank. So you see that there aren't huge differences between the standings. So what the main conclusion is that with a 20 game or 20 matchup regular season, it pretty much balances out over the season, and it's difficult for one team to be consistently luckier than his quality and vice versa. And we can, before the playoffs, we can take a look at some individual performers. So these are NHL stats, and basically who the best players for the season were. And you see here that you remember when Corey Perry was good? Yeah, I had a hard time remembering that too. But you see that there was only one auction contract already who made it to the top players, and it was Jamie Benn signing by Linköping. Like I said earlier, quite a really fair and in the future years even bargain contract. Pavelski looks like a pretty good bargain here. And also further down you see Patrick Sharp in what was maybe his best season of his career, and definitely his last great season as a fantasy asset. So he manages to crack here the top 12, because I think here there are 12 guys here. But pretty normal. And here are the defensemen and the best goalies, so top 6 and 5 respectively. Just wanted to really get a snip of the best, the top of the top. And you see the defenseman Bufflin is a pretty much subscriber for this top defenseman. He's really super valuable in our league with his overall contribution, but it's hard to beat Carlson in this season, particularly when he had close to 20 more points than Bufflin. Also Weber, Subban, Duncan Keith here is still a good one, and Hedman is on his way up. And the goalies, you see Brad has the two best goalies. Okay, the Rask was arguably the best goalie of the season. After that, if you choose Bishop over Wamo for price, it's pretty close, but Rask was the best one that season. But just look at Bishop and Bobrovsky's contract. These are such beauties, really, and still they were signed at the first veteran draft. So like, it's really amazing. Good job by James and Elliot to grab those and then ride them to success, or to at least regular season success. There were only two teams. I don't know if the most vigilant of you managed to see. There were only two teams that had at least one player in all three tables, top 10s, top players, the forwards, defensemen, and goalies. And these were the J-Lopes and the Turtles. And no surprise that these were one of the top teams in the league in that season. So next, we take a look at the playoffs, and to surprise of no one as of now, but to surprise of many as of then, the Mighty Camels went on an incredible run from barely making the playoffs to becoming the second UDL champion. They managed to upset the forecast for champion in the Grizzly Adams, and then managed to beat the top team of the league in the second and the third. So this is really quite a fairy tale run, but that's why it's one of the most impressive, and maybe the most impressive still to date in the UDL playoff history. Uh, Overall, there were not that many upsets here. The division champions, apart from Odessa, managed to get to the semis, and from then on, still in one way or another, most of them lost to Dubai. So congrats again on 6 years from now, not from now, but prior to now, 6 years ago. Okay, 6 years ago, on Dubai's success, and I think that's all. Uh, I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe next weekend, not this coming tomorrow, but next weekend I'll be able to upload something like the top 10 trades of the season. There were some huge ones, I can tell you that. Already I have some data prepared. So, and more interesting is not only to look at the trades, but to see maybe what came of the picks that were involved. This is for me always interesting to look in hindsight. So, thanks again, and see you around.